whoops. Hello. Whoops. Oh, yeah. Hi, it's Will. Welcome to. I'm gonna mute Michael. Welcome to As We May Thunk number 3, and I guess I goofed a little bit by sending out the link kind of late, and maybe said the wrong time or something. Sorry about that. But anyway, we got a couple of people now, and before we started the recording the hangout, Daniel and Michael and I were talking about what we'd like in a tool, and so I don't know, maybe we can do like a little recap of that and have some more discussion. Fortunately, Daniel's able to talk this time, so it's nice. I don't know, maybe David can talk too, or maybe just in chat. So, yeah, so we were talking about both what we might want in a collaborative tool, like a collaborative hacking tool, and sort of what we've seen that's out there that exists. And maybe Michael wants to talk. Michael, do you want to talk about what you were just saying about the Cloud9 stuff or the Atom stuff?
Yeah, sure. So just describing a couple of the things that I've seen that exist. So there's Cloud9, which gives you kind of a shared IDE space. So you're manipulating the same files, and you can have a shared terminal as well as private terminals. And I'm not 100% sure. Yeah, C9.io. And I'm not entirely sure whether it lets you kind of have Google Docs style collaborative editing inside a single file if you're editing in that one file. So there's that, and then there are things like RiseUp-Pad, which is actually hosted Etherpad, I guess, which are just kind of like Google Docs but for more general code. And then there was another interesting plugin I found for Atom. I don't have a link for it, but you look for Atom collaborative editing. And that plugin was set up mostly for pair programming, where kind of both people's attention would be in exactly the same place, and one person would be driving. So if you kind of set up each of your editors, they would stay synchronized, so whatever file was up in one would show up in the other, and you could see kind of what someone was looking at and modifying. Whereas opposed, like in Cloud9, you don't really kind of see where the other person's attention is in the workspace. So it's a little bit different.
So Daniel and David. So David, I know you do hacking, collaborative hacking online, and Daniel, I imagine you've probably done so also. What sort of things have you found useful, or what sort of tools have you used in the past, and sort of what capabilities do you like, and what capabilities do you think are either missing or you'd like to have, and can you imagine either features for a tool for online hacking and collaboration with other people, or use cases describing that?
Well, I mean, mostly what I'll do is I'll use like you mentioned, RiseUp-Pad. That'll be like I'll hash out ideas with someone with that, and mostly other than that, it'll just be fast pushing with Git to some Scratch repo, and then we'll share back and forth, chat on IRC.
So what are the things that work well about that, and what are the things that are kind of awkward about it?
Well, there's a lot of problems with pushing over each other and having to deal with extraneous merges, but I think overall it works pretty smooth. And like it would be nice with the RiseUp-Pad type stuff to have program aware syntax highlighting and indentation stuff, just normal IDE stuff you'd want. It's a huge pain to write code in it.
Go ahead.
Yeah, I don't think it's that big of an issue to not have a REPL available right there, because you can just evaluate it and paste it back in. I think the biggest issue is just it's not code aware at all. It's just meant for pros.
Okay. So if you had something like RiseUp-Pad that was aware of the language you're using, So I guess that would solve that problem. And as far as the GitHub stuff with the extraneous merges, is that a GitHub issue at all, do you think? I mean, could some other revision control tool do a better job, or is there something about Git?
No, I mean, if you're just working at the same time, you're just going to have overlaps of code, so...
Okay, so let's see. So why are there extraneous merges? So if you're both working in the same rise-up pad, right, are you both checking in, or is it one person kind of responsible for the check-ins in Git?
Well, yeah, I mean, that's the... Well, I mean, I'm actually not aware of rise-up pad specifically. I was assuming it's like the other ones, like Etherpad. Is it a different...
Yeah, it's like Etherpad.
Yeah, so I mean, like in that...
Is Etherpad. It's a hosted instance of Etherpad.
Yeah.
Okay, so yeah, but still there you see the other person doing the editing as they're doing it, and you can kind of easily just find your own space on the document and avoid overwriting each other. But when you're just you know, hacking in your own Emacs and you're pushing changes, you'll overlap all the time.
Yeah. So what about for multi-file projects, right? If you had 10 files open, do you open 10 Etherpads, or do you just try to keep everything in one Etherpad and just kind of...
No, I mean, we'll just keep general like ideas, like a list of stuff to work on, and you know, ideas we have in Etherpad, and the rest will just be through Git.
Okay, I see. So as far as actually editing existing code and things like that, you wouldn't use Etherpad for that?
No, I wouldn't.
Okay.
I mean, at least not as it is right now.
So would you ever do something like have screen sharing and then talk to people with over, you know, either IRC or Hangouts or Skype or something like that? And then
yeah, I haven't played with that much with screen sharing type stuff. I mean, it would be nice though.
Okay. Yeah, I do that quite a bit. I have a Google Hangout going, and then one of us will screen share and drive, and we'll use Git periodically, like. If for some reason we've made a big change, right, and then it's like, okay, I'll check it in, you can grab it. But usually we just have one person driving and then switch back and forth, and that seems to work okay, at least with 2 people. And maybe that's actually better when you have 10 people. I don't know, but it's you have one person definitely focusing on who has the view, right? I mean, this is different from what Michael was talking about with the Atom editor, where I guess with that synchronized Atom editor, either person can change the focus of where people are looking. Is that right?
I think so. I haven't actually installed that one and used it because it wasn't quite what I was looking for.
And another thing I've done is when it's one-on-one, and the tmux thing is really easy. There's an extension called WeMux that makes it way easier for multiple people to share the same tmux session. So I've like tutored someone personally with that type of thing. I haven't tried it to work on something together quite. Okay,
so how would that work? So if we've got a WeMux, if we're sharing a WeMux station, so I'm not like a team. I think I've ever used tmux. So how, like, walk me through kind of the use case.
Yeah, so we'll just I'll just have my VPS up, just a little private server. We'll both SSH in. Run tmux, it'll connect to the same session, and then it'll just be like we have a shared terminal where we can both navigate around, and it has a windowing system, so I can open Emacs in one and like a terminal or something else in the other.
Okay, so when that's happening. So would each of us then would have like our own REPL, or each Emacs, and the other person?
No, I mean it's shared still. I mean, it's been a while since I have done it. It's still going to be shared completely. Like I think you might be able to do input separately from each other, but I'm not 100% sure about that.
Yeah. So for Emacs, like I hit meta and you hit alt or something.
Yeah, that might be trouble.
It looks like WeMux does have a mode where you can do it separately, or you can have different cursors, but they have to be in different windows. It looks like, so you could have 2 terminals or something, and each of you could drive a different one of the terminals, but it doesn't look like you can drive the same window. separately, which would make sense.
Okay.
And there's also another. Well, one of the nice things that I want to see done more is like when what was it? Zach came on and showed the Hakaru stuff.
Oh yeah, that was Rob Zinkoff.
Oh yeah, Rob Zinkoff. I'm sorry, I don't know why I thought Zach, but like any of that like IPython notebook or like the Haskell or OCaml equivalents of it, or are quite nice. And then there's that we've talked about the REPL.it thing before. It has a scheme implementation in it. It'll let you, play around, and then you can make a link to the code that you had worked on in the REPL session that you had with it, and it'll replay it for anyone who goes to that link. So both of those types of things I've played with a little bit.
So, all right. So I'm totally blanking on that. So this was something we talked about during the Mini-Canron Hangouts. The REPL.
Yeah, someone brought it up.
Okay, I don't. Yeah, I guess I looked at it at the time, but I haven't really thought about it. That sounds pretty cool. So, is this something that we can just go to? Like if I do screen sharing or something, can I just open up the
you just go to REPL.it. It'll let you pick any of the languages they have an implementation for.
Okay, let me try it. So.
Alas, it uses a version of Scheme that doesn't have macros. So.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, it's the BWIS scheme.
Yeah, it's the BWIS scheme, which is not sufficiently capable.
Okay, but we're just trying to steal ideas here, right? So
yeah.
That's cool. All right, so I got a REPL it here. Search for popular languages. Scheme is popular? Wow, what sort of world is this? I want to live there. All right, so I click on Scheme. That's a good start. All right. Okay, so this isn't for collaborative stuff. This is so I can save something that other people can replay later. Is that the idea?
Yeah.
All right, so I'm going to define, make adder, let's say. Cool. I can type make adder. Oh, cool. Lambda x. Fancy. Lambda y plus xy. Okay. All right. So, all right, and then I'll just say make adder 3, 4. Okay, 7. All right. So can I? Is that session saved? Like as soon as I click save, is that?
Yeah, it should be, and then you can click the share link from there, and so if you open that up in a new tab or one of us open it, we can run your REPL session.
All right, so I'll put that in chat. Okay. Okay, so when you go, okay, so Michael or Daniel or David, can you screen share maybe and show what it looks like on your side?
You should be able to just open another tab.
Oh, that's a good point. Okay. Okay, so, oops. Tab. Oh, that didn't work. Oh, I think I closed it. I don't. Yeah. All right. So let me try this again. Did I tell you I hate tabs? That was my one attempt to use a tab. Okay, let's try it. Okay, I'm gonna put in this link. Run. Uh-oh.
I think you have to hit that.
The circle replay button in the upper right of the terminal.
Oh.
That's not very intuitive.
Interesting. So, and what does run do then? I'm not sure.
That'll be like Veneer, and it'll run the code that's in the buffer on the left.
Oh, okay. So I could do this and then do a run. Oh. Okay. Okay. So
So what about a nastier session in which you define something on the left, you evaluate it on the right, or you define something on the left, you hit run, you evaluate the result on the right, and then you change the thing on the left, run it again, evaluate on the right, and then send someone the link and have them replay. Will it actually get the right result? I'm just curious if it handles change definitions correctly.
Okay, so I've done this, and now what you want me to do? Save it? Or you want me to change double?
I want you to change double and run it again.
Okay, and then run again.
Yep. Well, and then yeah, call it there.
Okay, and now
And
you want
then
me to
save and share, and open in a new tab.
All right. If I can figure out how. Oh, here's. I can click on this button. Hey, that's a tab button. Okay. Go here. Oh, look, it's doing something. All right. Click on this circle-y thing, I guess. All right. So now you want me to type double 3 again?
Oh, no, it's got it. Oh, okay. I see what it did.
Oh, so it actually like entered the definition.
Yeah.
The REPL.
Yep.
Interesting. So I didn't see that. So when it, yeah, here that's not obvious, right?
Not showing.
It's not showing that. Okay, gotcha. Huh. All right. Does that make you happy or sad?
That makes me happy.
Okay. And okay, so what are the use cases for this? Would this be for like doing a tutorial or something? Is that the main thing?
Yeah, I mean that's what I think. Like someone's trying to understand. Like there'll be a million times where someone will come to me, please help me understand monads, and I'll type up a quick example and something like this, and give them a few REPL examples.
Okay. 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 So and let's see, what are the trade-offs? So this is so I guess the way I would often do this is I would just do an Emacs, scheme REPL running an Emacs and then save the session. But here, the nice thing is that it's executable. So I can still play around with it.
Yeah, so they can play around with it too without having to set up, Scheme or Lisp.
Yeah. Yeah, so that part's nice. So this has part of the feel of what I was talking about before. Yeah, I guess I'd like... But okay, so the thing it's missing is the collaborative aspect, I guess, right? You can't do real-time collaborative editing or anything like that, right? It's all kind of one person at a time. Okay, but that's pretty cool. All right, and I guess the other thing is the version of Scheme it's running doesn't have macros and all that, I guess. So,
Yes.
But
Say we thought about doing like what we started last week, but instead of trying to clone processes with Creo, we just said, well, this is only going to work on a process that takes input from standard in, and writes to standard out. And you can use any kind of REPL that does that. And we're just going to do exactly what happens here, which is they just record every definition. And every definition for everything you do must come in through the REPL.
okay, so no side effects, no files, no processes.
Yeah, you can have side effects. You just can't have, I mean, anything that you can replay by, basically instead of cloning a process to clone state, just launching a new process and firing the same input at it.
Sure. Yeah. Yeah. So I mean no side effects. I mean you're just going to record the input basically, the textual input.
Yep.
And if there are side effects you get when you replay that, that's fine, but you're not going to make any attempt to record the side effects somehow. You're not going to follow a chain of open files or anything like that.
Sure. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Because that seemed like, was it called Crew or whatever? I mean, it was actually trying to deal with things like open files, I guess, or I couldn't tell if it was doing that or not.
Yeah, I think so. I think it was trying to
process
open files, networking adapters, everything that it could, basically.
Yeah, so that's a pretty big problem, and it's hard to imagine it getting it exactly right.
Yeah, and it's probably not critical for what we want, right?
Yeah, probably not. Probably not. Okay. Yeah, so that's I do remember it now. Now that we looked at it again, but I just hadn't really thought of it. But that's a cool tool. Okay. And Daniel, do you do online collaborative hacking or things like that at all? And if so, what sort of tools do you use?
I've done a couple of like more lecture-like screencasting things where I've done it very similarly to the way that you've done it for the mini Canron Hangouts. I found very much the same problems. I think that you did that. It tends to encourage sort of a lecture style interaction where it's more passive and it's difficult to take input from the people who are participating. So I don't know. I've tried it. I am not satisfied with that model. So
you know, if you can imagine something better, or maybe not even ideal, it's just something better. What sort of things would you like to be able to do, and what sort of use cases would you have? Like, can you imagine? Can you give an example of a different sort of interaction that would, and maybe some of this has to do with like Hangouts and video and chat more than the textual sharing of code or REPLs or things like that. But you know, what do you think would have made it easier for people to collaborate on a more equal basis, I guess, or more equitable basis?
I mean, I think it comes down to being able to share files, being able to share REPL state, and not necessarily really having like a center master, but sort of allow that the state of people's individual systems to sort of act as peers. So, I mean, that's kind of why I was interested in looking at the checkpoint restore and user space code, because that would very easily let you sort of have, you'd be able to do the same sort of things that you can do with a screen share, in the sense that you could share a terminal session in sort of a read-only broadcast method. But at the same time, someone else could do their own REPL, you could switch to it. And the other thing that I think is really important from the learning capability is allowing people to look at something and be like, that's interesting, I have some thought or idea, and having that sort of ability to fork the active state of the REPL with as much fidelity as possible, and then allowing them to experiment and say, oh, hey, I found something really interesting, and then giving them the same capacity to share that back to the group in the same way as the master whatever presentation, I think is a really powerful model. How to achieve that, I don't know. I mean, the checkpoint restore and user space thing is one part. Some combination of that with terminal session recording. And I think if you can integrate not just the interaction with the actual programmatic system, the REPL, but also the collaboration environment, what questions people have in the context of a particular thing, the audio track of the presenter and what they're saying about it, and being able to play that back in a timeline, but also have this sort of notion of both time travel and parallel universes that people can easily and quickly navigate between is sort of a model that I think would be really interesting.
So, if you're not talking about something that's language agnostic, I mean, this already exists in delimited continuations that are serializable, which Racket has, and a few other languages like OCaml with Oleg's library and Gambit scheme. And so with that, you would just be able to fork the REPL just by calling shift or call CC. You could send it over the network to one of the other people, and they can just call it. They'll have your REPL.
Okay, so that's going to work as long as you're not doing mutation of things like that, right? Because the continuation is not going to grab the heap; it's only going to grab the stack, right?
Yeah, I'm not 100% sure on how that's going to work.
Okay, but if you're doing things that are pure,
yeah, like mini Canron will work perfectly fine.
Yeah. Okay, so all right, so how would that work then? So if we've got, say a few people collaborating, and I want to grab a snapshot of your REPL at a certain point, then are we gonna? Do I have some sort of button or something that automatically kind of wraps, shift and reset around your code, or where are the shift and reset going to live, I guess? Um,
I think they'd have to live in the implementation of the REPL loop.
okay, so all right, and then once this happened, and then the delimited continuation gets serialized and then pushed to my system.
Well, let's simplify it. I don't know if we even have to be as fancy as serializing them. Let's just say that we're all running in a single instance of a Racket VM, right? But
Okay.
you know, we've got a web service or whatever that's providing our REPL, and you know, it's running different kind of instances of the REPL loop for each kind of client that's connected. And if you want to clone it, you can kind of, I guess, take a continuation of that. And can you duplicate continuations like that? Can I take a continuation in one? I guess I don't know. If I could take it in one kind of handler and duplicate it in kind of another thread, I guess, would be what you'd need to do.
Well, I mean, I don't. Why would you need to duplicate it? I mean, you can call it multiple times. I mean, if it's in a different thread.
Are you afraid that it won't work in a different thread, that it's got some thread-related context or something?
Yeah, I've just never tried to do something like this with continuation, so I don't know what consequences it would have.
You should be able to invoke it multiple times. I don't know if there's any issues with using it in different threads, but it sounds like, you know, we obviously have access to less of Racket expertise if we couldn't figure it out ourselves anyway. But that sounds like something that would potentially be of small scope to try, and might give us some interesting behavior. I mean, this reminds me a little bit of, I mean, one of the reasons I got interested in the functional stuff to begin with was when I was doing web development. I read one of the PLT papers on using continuation-based web servers, and you know, that feels a little bit like this. I mean, it's for a different purpose, but yeah. So I think that would be potentially something that would be not that hard to experiment with and might give us a lot of the behavior. I mean, it would keep us with Racket, but I'd be happy to explore that.
Yeah, so what do people think, and I guess maybe Daniel particularly, because you're excited about the Creo stuff, do you think that kind of a replay-based model would be enough, or is it important to have more than that?
I think maybe you could have some sort of a hybrid, periodic checkpoints, and then do some degree of replay over the terminal contents. So if there's stuff that's not pure, at least you don't drift as far. I don't know. I think I see value in both methods, maybe complementary as well.
I'm just thinking, like, if we can't get Creo or something similar to work.
Oh, I'm pretty sure we can get something like that to work.
Oh, okay. So you're volunteering to go down the path of figuring out how to patch Creo to make it work?
Yeah, I'm sure I could figure that out, given enough time.
Okay, well, I look forward to that then.
Good. Okay.
I was just not going to volunteer for diving down that rabbit hole, so.
I had this great idea and I forgot it. Probably wasn't that great, but I had some idea I was very excited about sharing. I forgot what it was. Oh well. I had some awesome use case or something, but I don't remember what it was. So, okay. Wait, I kind of remember what it was. Oh yeah. Okay. This is. I don't know if it's great or not, but I'm excited about it. So trying to think of use cases and things like that. So I often give talks, and like in the talks I'll have a mini Canron demo or something like that, or a scheme demo or whatever it is, right? I like to show code and the REPL and all that whenever I give a presentation. That's just kind of my style. I like showing that. I think it makes it more concrete. And whenever I do this, I always make at least one or two mistakes, just typing, or I forget a variable or something, right? I mean, it just, you know, when you're doing that, it happens. And sometimes I need like the audience to help me out because I forget, like, what did I do wrong or whatever. And sometimes the audience can't know because I'm showing them something I haven't showed, like something new that they don't know about. But often, there are people there who know mini can run, or who people who know scheme, or whatever it is, or they've been paying attention, and they're like, oh yeah, dummy, you forgot your query variable, or something like that, right? And they could help me out, and they often do. But when I was thinking about that, it'd be really, really cool to be able to give a talk like that, and have people on the web browser. I mean, if I could do it in my web browser or something like that, maybe something like Veneer, but like a collaborative version, something like we've been talking about, where as I'm going along in my talk, right, at any point in time, people who are logged into the system in the web browser or whatever, they have access to what the current state is at that time, right? And they can split it off if they want, or they can follow along. And if they want to try something, it's like, when they're watching those demos, hopefully part of the idea is that they get inspired to want to try something, or ask, what would happen if you did this variant, right? They should be able to just try it during the talk. And if I get stuck, they should be able to try it in that state and say, oh yeah, you really did leave this variable out, or whatever, right? That would actually be really, really neat to be able to give a talk like that and have the audience be in sync with me and be able to kind of fork off anytime they want and be able to experiment with different things as I'm talking about or showing it. That would be really neat. I hadn't thought about that before. I don't know if there's technologies that exist that would let people do that, or if people are giving talks like that, but I would love to experiment with that.
I mean, that'd just be the in-person version of all the same stuff we talked about for the online version, right? It would just be the online version, but not needing video because you're in the room with them.
Yeah. Well, I guess the other thing is, So I was going to say it's more like a broadcast mechanism, but ideally, if you really made these talks interactive and you did it on a regular basis, part of it would be people in the audience, they could ping you saying, hey, I've got a cool example that I want to share with you, and like during the talk, you could actually share that code that people came up with.
Yeah, I mean, it's exactly the same as the online. It's just you might be directing attention differently than you would during a hangout, right?
Yeah.
Attention on your screen might be directed differently.
But I guess I hadn't made that connection that, in some sense, the talks I actually want to give are essentially hangouts, where the entire audience is like, logged in. Hadn't really thought of it as doing that for a talk. I thought of a hangout as kind of a separate thing, but anyway.
You might have trouble. I guess it always is a struggle to get that level of attention from your average audience, but some people. Participating.
It doesn't have to be everyone, but actually, in some sense, I think it would help keep people's attention, right?
Yeah.
They could actually play with it.
Yeah.
They can enjoy the joy of infinite loops. Yeah. So anyway, I want to try that now. All right, my next talk. Well, okay, my next talk's next week, but the talk after that, unless we get this working by next week.
Probably not going to happen, at least on my end.
Yeah. Well, I'll just do the GitHub version, right? I'll just check in after every keystroke. I'll check it into GitHub, and they can just load up their REPL that way. But anyway, yeah, I'm excited about this. I'm excited about this plan. I'm excited to be part of it. Okay, so that's what I want to do with the talk. I've never seen anyone give a talk like that. Have you?
No, I don't think the tools exist.
Yeah, the technology doesn't exist yet, but it will soon.
All right.
I think you also have to be aware of conference technical glitches like AV and networking if you want to do something like that. So
Sure, but also just there are plenty of times I do it even just in a classroom or something, right? Where we think the internet's probably okay or whatever. But yeah, of course. I mean, there are lots of ways for this to go wrong.
Well, I mean, you could always just give it more traditionally as a backup if the tech isn't working, right?
Well, I guess the cool thing is the sense I have is I actually wouldn't do anything different if I had this technology. It'd be exactly the same talk I normally do. It just would happen to be that the audience could could be playing along, and then they could share stuff back if they wanted to. But it would degrade gracefully as far as that goes.
Yep. All right, so it sounds like Daniel is definitely interested in following the Crew branch at some point.
Okay. Do you want to show him, or Daniel, is that useful to see what Michael?
I already sent him kind of the mailing list post that I ran into, which is probably our best lead on what might need to happen.
Okay.
So if that's a direction we're going to follow, one thing that we could do in the meantime, until Daniel works his magic and gets Crew working for cloning processes, would be we could kind of do the same thing, but just do process cloning by replay, which would be pretty trivial to set up, just kind of as our first pass at it, so that we could get to kind of the higher level interface stuff on the front end, and then could swap Crew in as the back end at a later point when that was working.
Okay.
So that would be one direction to go, or the other direction would be to say, well, maybe let's try the continuation in Racket, or something else similar in Racket. I wonder if you can clone a sandbox in Racket, or otherwise clone a part of the heap as well, because that would be nice.
Well, there's certainly people we could ping about it.
Yeah, I mean, we could probably find some of it just by reading the docs for a couple minutes and figuring it out. But
well, I mean, I guess I'm more familiar with delimited continuations than I am with Unix stuff. But I think it'd be good to play around with both, if possible.
Yeah. Well, what should we try today?
Well, okay. So for the, and also maybe David's got some ideas also. Other things to try. Okay. So with the delimited continuation thing, what exactly would that entail? What would we have to build?
Well, we'd probably have to have a way to have kind of multiple sessions interacting with some Racket process. So maybe the simplest way to do that would be to just model it with sockets and telnet into a socket connection or something, and send S expressions in and get S expressions back in a little loop created by the listener for that socket, and then see if we could kind of capture the state of that evaluator somehow.
Okay. Do you have a sense of how much effort it'd be to prototype that? Or parts of it, at least?
I mean, just depends if delimited depends if delimited continuations would be able to capture what we'd want.
Okay. So I guess that would be the first thing to figure out.
Yeah, I mean, one thing we could try. I'm sure that Racket has some, existing REPL-like thing that we can just call. So if we could, put a continuation mark before that, and then just call into the REPL, and then have some way of, maybe add a command to the REPL that lets you kind of capture it and save it out with a name or something. Into a global table or something. Wouldn't be too hard to try. But I think the problem would be that we also probably need to capture the heap.
Well, I mean, as David was pointing out, do we actually need to capture the heap if we're not doing side effects? If we had purely functional?
Well, I guess the question is how Racket's working itself, right? Because
I guess
definition, right? That's going to add stuff to the heap. So we at least need to be able to get a handle on those things on the heap.
Yeah, I guess the problem is.
Capture those, shouldn't it?
Say again.
It shouldn't it walk those and get any of the references and.
Yeah. So they shouldn't get GC'd. So that should be fine.
Yeah, but they wouldn't be part of the continuation, would they?
I'm pretty sure they should be if it's getting serialized.
They'd be referenced by the continuation.
Okay, so the serialized version of it could contain it. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
The serialized is kind of the important part here, I think.
Mm.
And even for cross-thread, like Racket doesn't even have real threads. It's just running a different VM in different threads.
Okay. Yeah, so if we could serialize all the objects, then that would be cool. Okay, so we need to figure out if the serialization and the limited continuations with this serialization capture all that object state.
Yeah, I mean it'll capture the values themselves. If you're doing actual mutation in the code and then you're taking continuations and then they're mutating it, it won't capture all those effects in the same way that you want, but you could probably wrap that up.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
But if we're staying pure, then it shouldn't be an issue.
Yeah, if you're just doing pure, I think it'll probably work great.
Okay. Well, that sounds like something that would be at least easy to experiment with. Okay, so I guess Daniel, what do you have in mind in terms of playing around with like checkpoint restore stuff? Like what would be involved with that?
I guess try to reproduce what Michael did and see what I run into. I don't know.
Okay, and then basically try to figure out if you can fix it or work around it, or if that's a no-go and you have to use some other tech. Okay. Well, I guess one question is, is it time to divide and conquer and have two people work on each, or is there a way to interleave the evaluation of this, or what's the right way to try it if we want to do some hacking on it? I mean, do we have to look at one? Should we look at one of these approaches first? Have everyone look at it for a while?
I think it depends if Daniel wants to work on that right now or not.
Yeah, I don't have a sense of like how big a problem this is, or if it's something that's going to take like hours, or if it's like 10 minutes to look at it.
I think it's probably going to be more on the order of hours, so I should probably look at that offline.
Okay. Well, what about the? Well, I guess it shouldn't take hours for us to play around with.
Shouldn't take too long to
serialization. Yeah. So do we want to try looking at that? And it sounds like David maybe already has some experience with some of the serialization, limit continuation stuff. Right?
No, I don't have experience. I just thought it would be a really good idea to try and for Veneer in the future. Actually, someone just a couple hours ago linked me a paper on Feely doing this with Gambit scheme across. He'll take a code from a process from the C implementation of Gambit. You can serialize that and send it to the compiled JavaScript version he has now, and it runs there.
Whoa. That's cool.
So the JavaScript version is compiling the C version through NScriptN to JavaScript. So
no, he has two versions of it. One of them does the NScriptN, and the other one's just a custom to actual JavaScript. That's not mscriptn at all. It's a different system.
I didn't know about that one. I hadn't heard of that one. That's cool.
Yeah, I can link that paper.
Yeah, please. That'd be cool. Okay. Why don't we look at the Racket stuff?
Okay.
Or maybe Gambit. Well, we could start with Racket.
I'm more comfortable with Racket, so if Racket can do it.
I think most people are more comfortable with Racket.
If Racket can't do it, then we could try Gambit.
Okay. Does anyone other than me want to screen share with Racket?
Yeah, sure. I mean, I can screen share. If people can watch me reading Racket documentation, very exciting.
I mean, you don't already know how to do it. You just fire up Racket and do it. Isn't it self-documenting? Come on.
Sure. All right. Call with serializable current continuation.
Oh, wow. Fancy. Response generator. Okay.
Well, can I import this and just do it without having to actually use the rest of the web server, or let's find out.
Can you make this font just slightly larger? Thanks. I'm not sure if it'll show up on YouTube or not.
I have no idea what this code is doing.
Web stuff. Maybe.
If you will.
Whoa.
All right, so presumably it looks like you can only call with serializable current continuation in some contexts.
Well, okay. All right. And I assume this is also like call CC, not limited continuations?
No, it was probably delimited continuations. It was saying no corresponding prompt in the continuation, so
Oh, okay.
that sounds delimited to me.
Yep.
Yeah, Racket
Well,
doesn't actually have call CC. It's implemented with delimited.
Okay.
Hmm.
So we might need a servlet.
Yeah, I've never actually done it in Racket. I know it's
I guess we could also look at the implementation of call with serializable current continuation. Be interesting. Guess we want. I'm not sure exactly how to find the definition of it. Unfortunate quality of the Racket docs is that's not always trivial. I guess serial. This thing should show me where it's defined. Actually, maybe it doesn't have to. Definition. Use. Right. Yes, it has to be this. Okay.
I could also ping, one of the Racket people if we want. See if they're available. Do you think Leaf would know?
I doubt it.
Okay.
Maybe. But yeah. Yeah, actually, I have easy access to some of those people too, so unscreen share for a second and ask them.
Okay. So, David, do you have any ideas for collaboration tools or things like that? I mean, I guess it sounds like for what you're doing, it kind of works.
Yeah, I mean, I think it mostly works. I like the idea I heard one of the other hangouts about like having like a chess table type thing where you can see, you know, a bunch of people working on stuff, or maybe just worked on the stuff way in the past and it's just saved there and you can go inspect it, you know, fork it off.
Yeah.
I'm not terribly keen, other than for one-on-one, on having people being able to edit the same buffer at once. I think that's just going to start to clash too much. I think making it easier to you know, watch others and fork off the REPL, just making that as easy as possible is what I think is the ideal route. And, you know, being able to watch other people's live rather than share.
So maybe it's more like a being able to make copies of and fork things.
Yeah, it's like you know, like for you in StarCraft, like it's way nicer to be able to watch a replay than it is to watch a stream, because you can, you know, click around and see what they're doing.
That's true. Although actually I like both, because, you know, with the stream you get the commentary, right?
Yeah.
But, you know, yeah, that's definitely true. Yeah, it's something where if you had a bunch of people working on something, you know, even in a classroom, it'd be really useful to be able to have people share what they're working on. I don't know, I guess if it's not too big brothery. As long as it's something where people want to share, I guess. Maybe classrooms are a good example.
Yeah, and I mean, I think that's another thing where the shared REPL and even just unconditionally, you know, streaming your REPL kind of gets in the way, because people, you know, might not want to bump into each other, and they also might not want to try playing around too much and looking stupid if someone can see everything they're doing.
Yeah, they might self-censor or just kind of not try things that might fail or something like that.
Yeah, and I mean, like, I like, and the classroom example is a really good one for the, you know, with the chess table thing again, because let's say you're the guy teaching the class, you could, you know, and you could like send a question to one of them, you know, quiz them on something that you think they might be having trouble on, and it'll pop up on their screen, or, you know, I mean, there's a lot of things you can do. I really like that chess table idea.
Yeah, I think Nahal was talking about that. Yeah, I like that analogy also.
All right. Well, I don't know if I'm gonna.
Yeah, and I also wasn't aware of this Racket stuff. You need to do it in that specific web context. I just assumed all their continuations would be serializable. I know Oleg's library for OCaml is like that. You can just, you know, serialize any continuation. I assume Gambit's the same as well.
Yeah, so maybe is there another type of continuation that we're not looking at that's serializable? Maybe there's more than one.
And, you know, serializable might not be using the normal continuations might not be that big of a deal if it's like he was talking about, like you're all sharing the same Racket instance. If you could set something up with that, you might be okay with just the normal ones.
So this is if we were sharing a server running Racket or something?
Yeah, or some person could just host it, but yeah.
Yeah.
So yeah, so the only real disadvantage of not serializing would be that we wouldn't contain mutation as well, right? Because if we serialized and then deserialized a copy, you'd end up with multiple copies of whatever on the heap, right?
Yeah.
Which would do a better job of containing mutation.
Yeah, you'd have to do some extra magic to make it work smoothly.
Well, what if we just tried serializing a normal continuation? Just for fun?
Try it.
Yeah.
Because I'm guessing that part of what... So they had a call that was capture web cell set, which looks to me like that might be like capturing more of the state. I'm not sure where that might be coming from, but I guess web server thing.
Sorry, and that's just capturing like dynamic variables that they want to capture.
Yeah.
Here's some sort of comment on serializable continuations and sandboxes.
Oh, where's that?
Let me see if I can send you the link. I'll put a link in chat.
I mean, it doesn't seem to complain when I serialize a normal continuation. I don't know if
Can
it's
you
working.
restore it and see if it works?
Probably have to test saving it to a file or something first, but like I just pasted in chat, it seems to be happy.
Is that link not working?
Uh,
Let me Google for serializable continuations and sandboxes.
yeah, found it.
Okay, cool. Maybe this is more of an error report or a limitation than it is like a use of it.
Alright, so this doesn't involve continuations, but is interesting. Because we probably will want sandboxes.
Okay.
Because without sandboxes, the REPLs could, delete files on the machine or whatever, right? So
Okay.
we probably do want to contain them some.
All right.
So the more interesting thing would be if you did a continuation here. Let's see. I guess let's look at what. Joy Shift K K. So I don't actually know how to use delimited continuations properly. If anyone does, that would be nice. Do I say Shift K to create the top of the continuation? Or the outside? And then in here is the expression.
So David, you had Shift KK, is that right?
Yeah, so Shift KK will be like call CC lambda KK. And there's already a prompt around the REPL, so that basically works right there, and Shift sets another prompt, so it should just work like that.
So what if I want to do something after I've set the prompt and then restore a continuation kind of from that context? So if I want to put something on the stack or do a let binding or something.
So you'd do that on the outside of the shift. You'd have like because you're gonna automatically have a prompt outside the eval to start. So you can just do like +1 shift k k, and then when you call that value that got returned, that'll give you back the number +1.
Is there a set of parens missing or something?
Where? Where?
Well, what's this external? What's the external k? Like, what expression is that? That's its own expression. What is it? Is that?
Yeah, it was just an external k to print it. Shift is not defined. Do I have to import something for shift?
Yeah, you need Racket/control. I think serialize might just be not complaining but not working.
Oh, I forgot. Well, I haven't serialized it yet. So,
Okay.
So I would say shift k serialize k if I wanted to get the serialized version of k, right?
Yeah, I'd assume so.
It does not think it is serializable.
Probably not.
So how do they manage? How do they manage serializable continuations here? Not standard. Only appears in abort resume. But I can't find the definition of it.
Okay. Should we try pinging some Racket people and try coming back to this, or do you think there's are there experiments we can keep trying now that are productive?
Well, try without serializing. Right?
Okay.
Leaf just replied to me, so turn back. Okay. I guess we can just try with normal continuation instead.
Okay, so where are we going to try with the normal continuations, just to see what's actually captured with the continuations, or what?
Well, one interesting thing would be, can I capture a continuation in, yeah, working across threads would be one thing. Another thing would be if I can capture a continuation in one sandbox and restore it in another. That would be even more interesting. I feel like that's even less likely, but I don't know.
Okay.
So I'm going to try creating a myeval and a myeval2. And I'm going to grab this. So first of all, let's see if I can just send a struct between these two, and I might not even be able to do that. Okay. I guess because the serializable struct is probably prefab, so it's okay with that. So I can export from one and pull into the other.
Okay.
So that's serialized. What?
Okay. So what exactly? So what exactly is this code doing?
So this is creating two sandboxes, myeval and myeval2, and it's creating a point in one of them and serializing it, and then deserializing it in the other. But we're not going to be serializing the continuation because we found out that we couldn't serialize continuations. But we could see if we can extract a continuation from one by saying Shift-KK, and then call it in the other. Oh, except, yeah, the way we were passing things into myeval2, we're not passing a value. It was a quoted S expression of the serialization.
Yeah.
But that's how it works. So I guess I don't know if I can do that. So if we're going to do it in multiple threads, how would we do that? Anyone have a proposal?
Well, threads have mailboxes, so I guess you would just take a continuation and send it to its mailbox and just evaluate any that comes in. That'll take over.
I haven't done Racket threads before.
I'll have to look it up as well.
Okay. So here, how about a thread? And all right, how do I make a continuation that actually does something? I guess that would
Well, so here you're going to need to set a reset around the shift, and then just do stuff around or in it as you please.
Okay, so I would do something like reset and then begin. Say I want to do a side effect. Ah. Okay.
Mm-hmm. So yeah, I mean, do you want to do it before or after? You want them to replay it and it does a side effect?
Yeah, when they run the call the continuation, I want
Yes,
to.
I mean, you could just take the shift KK like it is and move it in front of the display.
Ah, okay. Okay. Why is this only happening once?
Well,
Ah, I know. I work
Oh,
with
yeah, well, that makes sense.
taking one receive, but even. Oh, there it goes. Okay. Let's define multiple worker threads. Make sure that works. So are threads real OS threads in Racket?
No, they're green threads, but they're preemptive. So like you could, for example, have one running for every user and have its own socket, and they won't block each other.
Okay, and they don't ever use other processes or
Nope,
other.
they're always on the. There's always on the same thread.
There's only one. Yeah. Okay. So it's
There's a
not.
thing called places, which let you run multiple threads, but I'm dubious it will work over those because it's separate processes.
Okay, so it would have to serialize, and so far we haven't managed
Yeah.
to serialize a continuation. Okay. Cool. So if we had our continuation do a mutation, um, oddly quiet now that everyone's muted their mics. Plug in, I guess.
Living on the edge there.
Yep. All right, so mutable state is getting mutated. What about a REPL process or a REPL of some sort? Is there a REPL or a read-eval-print in Racket? There's a read-eval-print-loop. Okay, with input, output, and error reports. So I'm not sure if I can directly use the read-eval-print-loop because I would need some way of, within the read-eval-print-loop, so if I wrapped the call to read-eval-print with a reset, I would need to be able to shift from within kind of to the appropriate reset. Am I even understanding the limited continuations right? So if I shift, it should return from the reset. Is that right?
Yeah.
Okay. But the trick is, within the scope of this read-eval-print, I wouldn't have access to the right delimiter, right? Because can I name a delimiter with shift?
Yeah, you can name it with shift at.
Okay, yeah. But I would need to know the name to shift at, right?
Mm-hmm.
And is that just a symbol, or is that an identifier with hygiene? Does it actually have to be
Yeah,
what's in scope?
you have to make it through make prompt.
Okay. So I can't just have a name.
No, you can't actually just have a names.
Okay. So I have no idea how to get that prompt into scope within the REPL, right? Unless... So can I reset at something as well?
Yep, you can.
Okay. So if there were some module that I could expose and import both outside the REPL for the reset at and inside for the shift at? You think that would work?
I'm not sure. I have to play around with this a bit.
So what exactly is it you're trying to do? I guess I'm a little lost in higher level. So you're...
So I'm trying to so there's a Racket function called read-eval-print-loop, right?
Mm-hmm.
That I'm trying to kind of co-opt so that we can use it for our own read-eval-print-loop.
Okay.
But I need to be able to kind of capture the state of that loop. And the way I want to do that is by using a delimited continuation, where the prompt is set outside of the call to read-eval-print-loop, and then I call shift inside, so it captures the entire stack between.
And so that's why you want to know the name, so you can use the same name outside and inside the REPL.
Yeah, I mean, it has to be more than a name, and it has to actually be, I have to refer to the same value inside and outside.
Okay.
So read-eval-print-loop will start in the current context, probably. So if I said, so how do I make a prompt? Anyone know? Make continuation prompt? Tag? Shift at takes a prompt tag. So if I say reset at tag and then read-eval-print-loop, set at is going to be in Racket control. Top interaction is, no, it says tags unbound. Or no app. What language is this running in? Nothing is bound.
I think you have to specify the module to use with the read-eval-print-loop. And I think you can actually provide a sandbox as an argument to that.
What the heck is it with my browser? Ah, so it's current eval is probably what I need to parameterize.
Yeah.
So it would make sense to make current eval be a sandbox. So if I go back to the code where I was playing with sandboxes, I could make a module evaluator, parameterize that as the current eval. But inside the sandbox, how am I going to have a reference out to the tag that's wrapping the read-eval-print-loop call?
You mean, do you have to do like some sort of special import in the sandbox?
Yeah.
When you set it up?
Maybe. I guess the sandbox may not have particularly restrictive permissions initially. I don't know. It's language allow for require. I don't know. I'll try just defining a module based on Racket base with the tag in it. Or no, that's how I'd reference it. Here I would want to be able to say require tag m. Not a submod. It is.
There's something.
Just make evaluator. Example. So I guess my impression is inside the sandbox, I'm not going to be able to reach outside to get the right delimiter. So if I could do it without having to do that, feels like I should just be able to use. I mean, I kind of want to just use kind of the normal current eval, but I don't know what current eval is defined as.
Yeah, I can't find it either.
It's the Dr. Racket eval handler. All right, well, what if I call that with yeah. What if I do this outside of Dr. Racket? Default eval handler. Nothing. So maybe I have to set the current namespace. What is the namespace? So if I just try calling eval, does eval work? That's weird that that doesn't work. Have a guide. Okay, so you can do it already inside a REPL, but you can't otherwise. Yeah. The initial current namespace is empty, so I have to make a base namespace, and then I can use the evaluator with the namespace.
Okay. Is that because you're in a sandbox that's empty?
No, I'm not even using a sandbox yet.
Just starts out empty?
Yeah. Okay, so now if I parameterize with Okay. So now if I call read-eval-print, read-eval-print-loop. Okay. Progress. So now I have I'll try this outside of module tag, and then I reset at tag. It's tag in scope, tag is not in scope. What if I define the tag inside the parameterized for the current namespace? Still undefined. Manipulating namespaces. Namespace require, load, use the namespace attach function. This is all entertaining and complicated.
Yes.
All right, so I have this object. All right, I need read-eval-print. What was wrong with the original current namespace? Why did I have to make a base namespace? I cannot remember. So if I didn't parameterize this, what would happen?
It seems to be a lot easier just calling read and eval yourself. I've got a little bit going right now.
Okay.
Do you have screen sharing going?
No, I tried. It's not working in this browser. I don't know why.
Okay. There's always Get. You want to create a gist or something? If only we had tools to share sessions and REPLs.
It'd be amazing. Though actually, for something like this, it wouldn't help because this is all stuff that, like, I don't know. You probably couldn't do this inside a sandbox or something. So depending on the tool.
Sure. So David, you've got something kind of working?
Yeah, here I just pasted it. It's not everything we want, but at least it's working now without all those ridiculous, namespace errors and not being able to set the evaluator.
All right. Are we?
Okay, so this is set up so you can just run that and return a continuation in the REPL. Just shift KK in the REPL. It'll send it to another thread, and that thread will call it.
Okay.
So I don't understand. Is the prompt now? Oh, was it to return from the other thread?
Yeah.
Yeah, so thread 2 returned and printed
Okay.
the continuation generated by thread 1.
Okay. So val +1 of read. Shift K took me back to what reset? What prompt?
There's an implicit one with eval.
Okay. Okay, and so it got a continuation to the other thread, and then we called 1. All right. So if what we want one thread running a read-eval-print-loop, and we want to be able to, within that thread, call some function that will make that will take a continuation of the read-eval-print-loop and kind of make a copy of it and resume it in another thread. Is that going to work with this? Because I don't think the sandboxing got in the way of that, right?
I'm not sure.
Because if we want to do a shift outside of the read-eval-print-loop and a reset outside and a shift inside, or allow the user to somehow trigger a shift that stops the loop or pauses the loop.
So can sandboxes even communicate at all through just values rather than having the eval s expressions?
I'm not sure if they can.
So that might just throw sandboxes out the window by that.
Yeah, well, let's worry about figuring the sandbox part later. If we can just do it without having to do the sandbox piece.
Sure. Because I guess you could always run it in a VM on a server or something like that.
Yeah, potentially. I mean, just we probably do want the sandboxes, but let's say
Well,
we
I mean,
didn't need.
if it's just one, if you like protecting the server, it could just be one sandbox that all the threads are inside of. It doesn't have to be separate sandboxes.
That's a good point.
That's true. Yeah. If you're trying to protect users from kind of themselves or each other, then that could be different. Is namespace referable? No, it isn't. Yeah, I'm still, even with just eval, I'm running into the problem of, I'm basically trying to allow something inside the eval to access something outside, which should be doable.
Does it need to?
Well, so if what we're trying to do is capture a continuation of the read-eval-print loop itself. And maybe that's not the right thing. But that's what I've been trying to do.
Is there an alternative to that? That would still let us do what we want?
I mean, you need to capture all of the bindings within the read-eval-print loop, right? So, if within the read-eval-print loop someone defines x to be 5, right? You need to somehow capture everything such that I can make another copy and x will still be defined to be 5, right?
Yeah.
And so I think you'd need to capture a continuation of the evaluator. Basically, of the call to eval. All right, maybe this will work. So if we parameterize like that, and we have a module test, Racket base, define x to be 5, provide x, and inside the parameterize, we namespace require test, actually has to be tick test. How does submod work? I can never remember. Oh, maybe I don't put a tick there. Ah, yeah, the tick might go there. No. No base path for relative submodule path. All right, well, simplify the problem a little bit. That there. And then this stuff here. Okay, it looks that. So I've got that, and I've got that. But this requires Racket control and makes a continuation prompt tag. And provides the tag. And here I say read-eval-print-loop. And here I've also required tag. And here I reset at tag. Require test.rqt. And require Racket control. Make base empty namespace is the wrong thing. I want a make base namespace. Okay.
Wow, so simple.
Shift at tag K. We didn't require Racket control. Shift at tag K. Shift at tag KK. Continuation includes no prompt with the given tag.
Okay, are you creating a prompt with that tag anywhere?
Yeah, I am. So the trick is that the module called test that contains the tag got instantiated twice.
Oh.
So now I have to go to the next joy of namespaces. Let's see, namespacing guide, manipulating namespaces, sharing data encode across namespaces. So yeah, we're at this example where we ended up loading it again. So now we've got to connect the two namespaces. And in this case, we want, test.rqt. We're going to attach that to the other namespace. Yep. And then we're going to parameterize the current namespace to be ns. And then we're going to namespace require that all.
Okay, so what just happened?
So we got this reset at to capture a continuation of the read-eval-print-loop.
Okay.
The next thing to try is, can we call that again? So now if this is continuation that comes out of the read-eval-print-loop, can we call k and keep going? So if we again say shift at tag kk, yeah, so we came right back into the REPL. So if I define x to be 5, and then I shift at tag kk, that only worked once.
You got out of the loop.
Oh, I forgot to call loop again. Okay.
Don't forget. Do you need a begin there?
Why would I?
No, okay.
Okay, seems like that's cooperating now. Define x to be 5, x. Okay. All right. Okay, so that should have brought me into this call to k, the first call to k. So if I ask what x is, if I define y to be 6, and then I call it once more, okay.
Is that what you expected?
Well, what I was kind of hoping would be that I would be able to capture a configuration with kind of all the existing bindings in such a way that I could go back to how those bindings were, or I could make 2 independent copies that would proceed separately. So far, I haven't figured out how to do that. This is where the serialization might become necessary in restoring a serialized continuation.
Yeah, because I'm going to say in general, you're going to have things on the heap, right? Things you keep allocated, and I don't think the continuation is going to grab any of that stuff.
Yeah, I mean, in Racket, like, all data is on the heap, right? There's basically nothing on the stack other than the continuation stack itself, right?
Yeah, but I mean, well, at least in the versions of Schema, we're familiar with continuations are all about the control flow, right? And
I know, yeah. They're just about control flow. So there should be no reason I'd expect them to capture data.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, so I don't know if this is useful at all, unless we can serialize that continuation.
Okay. Do we need to ask some Racket people about the serialization and maybe the sandboxing?
Yeah, maybe. I could ask Matthew Flat.
Okay.
We seem to be encountering those, so.
All right. Okay, so if you were able to serialize, would you still have this architecture where you have the continuation, interacting with the REPL like this?
Yeah, I think so.
Okay.
I mean, maybe you don't even need that, but I guess what you need is whatever evaluator you have, right? Which is, maybe a sandbox evaluator or something. But it's going to have data structures for, all the local definitions and stuff like that, right?
Mm-hmm.
And what you need to do is be able to clone those definitions and create a second evaluator that has all those same definitions.
Yeah, so it sounds like the serialization stuff is probably going to be critical. I don't know,
so serializing out an entire continuation, including a running REPL, should just kind of inherently capture all those data structures.
Okay.
If you were actually able to fully serialize a continuation. I don't know if you can. Otherwise, it's possible that the sandbox evaluator, has some way of accessing those that you could serialize them separately and restart a new evaluator with the same data structures or something like that. I'm not really sure, though, exactly how you do it. So.
Okay. Well, it sounds like we've got some good questions.
I'm just going to look at the function list in the sandbox. Parameter that determines the procedure used to create the environment variable. Well, no, that's probably like system environment variables. Wonder if you could do anything with custodians.
I mean, I guess it still kind of works if you're willing to throw out mutation stuff. I mean, you can still just pass the evaluator with the continuation to the person who wants to use it. I mean, they could screw it up by mutating things, but if
Well, but they can't kind of do anything. I mean, they could run a copy of a function, but like if they wanted to modify the code at all, if they wanted to redefine a function or something, right?
yeah, if they wanted to redefine something, it would.
That's the trick. I think you'd want people to be able to, start from where you were and redefine functions and stuff.
Yeah.
Otherwise, it's just like, well, they could just load another, if you had a definitions file that you were editing, right, they could just load from that, right?
Okay, so what have we learned?
Well, I mean, I guess that we need to figure out how to clone the stuff on the heap.
Okay. And it may be the serialization stuff that does it, hopefully.
Yeah.
And hopefully that can be applied to continuations.
I mean, we can dream.
Can dream. Well, we can talk to Matthew or other Racket people and say. I mean, the other thing is we can say higher level. This is what we want to do, right? And they might have other suggested approaches.
Can't serialize a custodian. That would have been too much to ask. Yeah. Yep, well, I think we'll just have to ask Matty.
Well, we're just going to have to do it all in small talk.
Yeah, I know you can do this kind of stuff in small talk. You can definitely serialize basically the entire VM state in small talk. But.
Yep. All right, small talk 80.
I'll have to challenge Matthew and be like, well, small talk can do something Racket can't. Better get on that.
We can implement Racket and small talk. That'll solve all our problems.
Well, it does not sound like a good idea in any way.
All right.
Well,
yeah, I think this is a good stopping point. We've got some questions to ask, and hacked on another potential prototype. And I guess Daniel's got something to look at if he gets a chance to. We've got some questions to ask, and so it's all good.
All right. Well, we should announce this earlier than a week from now.
Was that? Oh, announce it
earlier than a week from now.
We need to announce it tomorrow. The other thing is I'm going to be in England next Tuesday.
Oh.
But not the Tuesday afterwards.
Are you going to participate from England, or are you going to not participate from England?
Undecided. I have no idea how good my hotel Wi-Fi will be or things like that, but I will attempt to participate if it seems to work out. But hopefully I'll also be talking to people at Code Mesh and stuff like that. Yeah, it'll be 1 a.m. there. Okay, that's a good point, Daniel. If it's 1 a.m. there, that's like perfect timing for me. Right?
Like, that's about when Will kind of wakes up for the day, right?
That's right, and that way I'll be done with all that social nonsense, and then I can actually do some hacking or something. I don't know. We'll see. We'll see how it goes.
Alrighty.
Yeah. But anyway, well, thank you, everyone, and thank you, Daniel and David, also, and for all your suggestions and hints, and hopefully we'll be able to push this and get something we can play with soon. All right. I guess that's it for tonight, and thank you, everyone, and hope to see you next week's Hangout, I guess, which we will announce earlier.
All right.
All right. I gotta stop the broadcast.